And a very good evening to you out there in internet land. Welcome back to the Shadow Gallery. I am, as always, your host, James Donnelly. And tonight we're going to talk a bit about some very major casting news for the comic book cinematic world. Now, earlier today, well, today it's technically now already the 1st of February, but on the 31st of January, it was announced that there would be new additions to the cast of the Batman Superman film that is going to be coming out. I think it's now been pushed to, I want to say May 15th or something like that of 2016. And that is of the casting of two vital characters to the to the individual characters and to the world they inhabit. First off, and perhaps with less pomp and circumstance, and certainly less potential offense, is the casting of Jeremy Irons as Alfred Pennyworth. This honestly seemed almost a bit perfunctory to me. It's just like, okay, well, let's find a great British actor that's old and gray, and let's cast him as Alfred, because obviously Michael Caine, he's already taken as far as this role is concerned. And we want to distance ourselves as much as is possible from any potential crossover between the Nolan Batverse and this newly established DC universe that they are really revving up to have, a Justice League film, because now Gal Gadot, obviously, we know now that she's been signed on to play Wonder Woman in 3 films. One of them will be a solo film, so that's pretty important. That's pretty big as well. That had been not very long ago, maybe about a week or two ago, that had been announced. And also that the 3rd film, other than this one, of course, she will be a part of a Justice League film. So, but of course, I have certainly no problem with Jeremy Irons playing Alfred. I mean, he is a great actor, and I think could inhabit the skin of Alfred Pennyworth with ease. I think also being younger than Michael Caine, they might try to bring more of the element of kind of the kind of combat weariness that he has, as we know him as Alfred Pennyworth from the comics. Now, I mean, whether or not that will even ever come to play, but I mean, obviously they're working on establishing a new Batman series. I mean, that's another no-brainer. But of course, the biggest reveal of today, and the one that I think is easily causing the most controversy, is the casting of Lex Luthor. Now, obviously, the big name that had been bandied about for some time was Bryan Cranston, and that was, such a fanboy wish. Obviously, coming off of Breaking Bad, where he plays this bald, amoral, or not amoral, but certainly a great villain. Definitely by a certain point, and I don't want to give spoilers away to people who haven't seen the show yet, and if you haven't, it's on Netflix. Go ahead and stream it. Binge watch all 6 seasons, because it's totally fucking worth it. So other bald actors were thrown around because, obviously we want to see bald Lex Luthor. But the casting went instead to what I believe to be the most inspired casting bit yet. And that is the casting of Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. Now this is, now technically, I didn't see that much like horrified chatter about it on Twitter or on Facebook today. People seem to take the news kind of in stride because, really, when it comes to a comic book movie casting, you can't depend on a certain type. Henry Cavill, no one knew who the hell he was before he was cast as Superman. I think he's a fine Superman. I don't think he's great. I think he has the potential to prove still that he can really inhabit this role well. But not particularly inspired casting. Ben Affleck, obviously a chance being taken there, but he's, again, a fine actor who's proven that he can be a really good actor. But I think has done better work behind the camera than in front of it. But, it's really, again, he's a really good actor. He's obviously, the correct physical type for the role, and even if he hadn't been, obviously, whatever they did with Bale to, puff him up from the 122 pounds that he was weighing in at when he was doing The Machinist up to the 190 and change that he ended up being as Bruce Wayne / Batman in Batman Begins. But Affleck's not that far from that physical type anyway, so it's not going to take that long to get him in shape. So Gal Gadot, again, also I think an inspired piece of casting because she's such an unknown in the universe of fanboy imagination. The only thing that we've ever seen her in really is the last two Fast and Furious films. Or I don't know if, honestly, I don't even remember if she had been introduced prior to that. It seems like she had, because when she walked on to Fast 5, it seems like people knew her. So I don't know if maybe she was part of Tokyo Drift or part of Fast and Furious or the fourth film. Because I don't remember, I didn't see the third one, I don't even remember the fourth one. That's how much it stayed with me. I really do remember the fifth one because I really, really enjoyed the hell out of the fifth one. Sixth one, not so much, got a little too serious at the end, but that great tease for the next film is pretty awesome, though. But of course, we're trotting on some sacred ground here. But anyway, Jesse Eisenberg, let's talk about him for a minute. Now, he is an actor that seems best suited to play a young, intellectual basket case, a very nervous character, a very kind of young Woody Allen-esque type of character. That's his caricature, if you will. I think he's even been in, if memory serves, he's been in a Woody Allen film. I don't know which one. But I first saw him in the Noah Baumbach film, The Squid and the Whale. And certainly I didn't think of him as Lex Luthor then, but if you see that film and you see the arrogance in which he plays that character, and of course the high intellect, and obviously seeing him in films like Adventureland and Zombieland, he plays kind of the same character in both films, a little bit more serious in Adventureland. But in Zombieland, definitely, a very kind of nebbish, little tiny man. And then, obviously, the film that he's best known for is The Social Network, in which he played Mark Zuckerberg, in which he was brilliant. I mean, he was absolutely stunning in that role. And I think that on the strength of that performance, and on also his work in Now You See Me, which is arguably more of Mark Ruffalo's film than it is Jesse Eisenberg's. And if you haven't seen that, you really should, because it's very, very good. It's really fun. And see the extended cut. The theatrical cut isn't, is still very good, but it's not as good as the extended cut. But it's a very smart movie, I thought, and very entertaining. And he again plays a very arrogant, a very self-centered person, and also a very intelligent person. So, but I think, again, based on him playing Mark Zuckerberg, there's already been a lot of jokes about, well, he already knows how to play a self-serving sociopath when he played Mark Zuckerberg. But you can see that element. Now, another thing is that he is around the same age as Henry Cavill. Now, whether or not this will be kind of a Smallville-ish origin story where it has them kind of starting out as friends, or where they will instantly be antagonists, or even how large of a role that he'll play in this film, that is, they're juggling a lot of characters right now. I mean, how, the big question is, how long of screen time is Wonder Woman going to have, Alfred, and now Lex Luthor. What's going to be the threat of this film? Now, I mean, rumors have been circulating for a while about Jason Momoa, who most people know him as Khal Drogo, from the first season of Game of Thrones. And also anybody who saw that really terrible, awful Conan the Barbarian film also know who he is. And he was also in the somewhat entertaining Stallone vehicle Bullet to the Head. But they've been talking. He might play Metallo. Again, this is one of those things where we're starting to worry: is it getting too crowded? Because I mean, that's a big debate, and that's an important debate to have, because sometimes films do, these big event superhero films especially get really crowded. Like, for instance, I mean, this summer we're getting Amazing Spider-Man 2, which is going to have, it's going to have Green Goblin, it's going to have Rhino, it's going to have Electro. So, I mean, right there, off the bat, it seems like, okay, that's like 2 characters too many for this film. But, of course, the idea of the sequel is to consistently top the previous film. Sometimes that's a big mistake, which is why third parts of trilogies are usually the worst, or the least of the 3, because they tend to try and cram so much into that third piece. I mean, another, the same argument's kind of being made with, the kind of overpopulation, it seems, of X-Men Days of Future Past. There seem to be too many heroes that which we'll have to focus on. Avengers Age of Ultron getting Thomas Kretschmann to play Baron von Strucker seems to be kind of a head scratcher for a lot of people, but that there's another rumor that there's maybe another villain that could be in the film. So again, with all of these superheroes that are coming into the film, one has to wonder, okay, well, how much screen time can we devote to each of these separate villains and the birth of them, the rise of them, what have you. I can't, you know, like I said, there was talk of a third villain. I can't remember which one they were thinking about might be added to Age of Ultron. Um, but you know, I think it's all good. I mean, you know, if there's anyone that I have faith in to make a really great Avengers film, it's Joss Whedon. Um, and you know, Zack Snyder has really yet to kind of blow my hair back as far as a film that he's created or that he's directed. I mean, I do really like the Dawn of the Dead remake. I really like 300. I think they're very strong visual films. Um, and obviously kind of trend setting, at least as far as 300 was concerned. Um, but, you know, as far as any of his other films, his adaptation of Watchmen, which is very kind of milksop. Then Sucker Punch, which to me was just this kind of adolescent mashup of all these different things with all these different genres, and it's all kind of just crazed. And then Man of Steel, which again is a film that I think does get better with additional viewings. Um, so I think that this film has, of course, I mean, it has a chance to be really good and to really, uh, I won't necessarily say go out on a limb to say it will blow our minds, but I think that it will be strong enough to really kind of carry the you know, this film to its next logical conclusion, which will be again, you know, we're looking at probably a Justice League film. I think they're maybe talking about 2017 or 2018 for that. That's a long way. I mean, that's a pretty long ways off. And especially if they're trying to do it in maybe like 3-year intervals. I mean, I thought it was a smart move to move this film from 2015 to 2016 because 2015 crowded enough, and I mean, and it's going to be really hard to beat uh, uh, Age of Ultron, and then of course, you know, depending upon when they tried to release it, you know, then you have later that year you'll have uh, Star Wars Episode 7, so which I think probably could have opened up in the summer, but you know, I trust that, you know, moving it to kind of a near like a holiday date, which I think is what they have set. It's like November of 2015. I think is the wise choice there, because I think one of the big mistakes, maybe I might call it, was releasing. It seemed like releasing The Dark Knight Rises and The Avengers in the same summer really was just too much for The Dark Knight Rises to handle, which is why it just couldn't make the money that it's, you know, that certainly that its predecessor did. And of course, you can argue about the quality of the film, but anyway, the most important thing being is that I think that both of these casting choices that were announced on Friday, one I think is just fine. I think again, Jeremy Irons, I'm sure will do a fine job. He's a great actor. He's an Oscar winner, and he's done some really impressive work. I personally think he should have won Best Actor for his work in Dead Ringers, as opposed to Reversal of Fortune. But you know, beggars can't be choosers, and Jesse Eisenberg, I think, is the most inspired piece of casting of this franchise, really, because everybody else seems to fit a very specific type. And you know, again, if they're going for, you know, someone that starts out as friends with Clark Kent, you know, something to that effect, I mean, that can be built on. To make way for him being maybe the lead villain in the next Superman film. So we'll see. We'll see how it all turns out. I mean, obviously, this is not like the level of fanboy rage that was caused by Heath Ledger being cast as the Joker, and look at what happened there. You got one of the greatest performances committed to film in recent memory, and certainly, an adaptation of a comic book villain that has become more iconic than any that had preceded it. So, and perhaps maybe forever. Well, I shouldn't say forever, ever, ever, but it'll be a while before someone in a comic book film can really top that. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. Discuss among yourselves and see what you think, and then let me know in the comments below. So until that time, and may it come soon, we'll talk again. I want to thank you for stopping by. If this is your first time here, feel free to subscribe, thumb it up, thumb it down, comments, criticisms, complaints, nice things are always welcome, but just, again, don't be a dick. That's my only comment guideline. Please just, if you're going to criticize, be respectful in your criticism. Okay, that's all I ask. I know it's the internet and that's a weird thing to talk about, but let's just all try and be civil, okay? So until next time, I hope we see each other again soon and talk about more of this kind of thing. So thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time. And of course, always remember to stay in the shadows.